Welcome back, everyone. Here in the United States, TikTok is getting yet another extension as details of an agreement about the app are beginning to emerge. President Trump signed an executive order Tuesday holding off enforcement of a nationwide ban on TikTok until mid-December. Earlier this week in Madrid, China and U.S. officials said that they had reached, quote, a framework for a deal over this hugely popular short video platform. The United States had initially set September 17th as the deadline for ByteDance, the parent company of TikTok, to sell or divest its U.S. operations to a non-Chinese owner. Now, for more on the potential into the TikTok deal, let's bring in Seth Schachner. He is a digital business executive as well as the managing director of Stratamerica. Always good to have you on our program. Thanks a lot.
Be here.
Okay, let's start with Trump's decision to yet again extend the TikTok deadline. So what does this signal as the seriousness of the negotiations? It's something these two countries really need to work out.
Yeah, Sean, I think the actual extension of the deadline, it's been sort of kicked like a can down the road multiple times since Congress passed a law, is probably less important and less significant this time than what the news reports are revealing. I think the real story here is that, it appears that, finally there's been a ton of back and forth on this story, pretty exasperating. It looks like there, is an outline for an actual partnership to happen whereby the app would still exist, but would be under some form of U.S. ownership, with a consortium of owners. And I think that's really what's at play here. I think Scott Bessent made an initial announcement early in the week that a framework had been reached, and I think we're supposed to hear details on it tomorrow. But that's how I read it, that something has happened in terms of keeping a U.S., the idea of a U.S. app alive, and it will happen.
Do we know anything about the key elements that are under discussion? Because, as you mentioned, ownership is really at the heart of this issue, U.S. oversight of data as well, and potentially some new corporate structures. And Beijing has made it clear that it wants to hang on to this.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say no, because these have all just been reported in the press, but, it looks like there's going to be at least 2 or 3 other parties added to the ownership mix. There's been U.S. interests in this from the start. People don't talk about things like Susquehanna or General Atlantic, but there have been U.S. owners in this all along, and they're a bit quiet. But it looks now like Oracle will be in the mix, Silver Lake Partners will be in the mix, Andreessen Horowitz as well. And so, what it looks like is they'll be being reported a roughly 80% ownership stake, and the board would also have a U.S. government, a member on it as well. And I think ByteDance would drop down to just under 20%. And I think that all sounds actually quite significant to me. It sounds a little bit mixed, to be honest with you, because that's a lot of people on the board and a lot of interest, a lot of cooks in the kitchen there. So I have some curiosity around that. But there's been other reporting as well about the algorithm, the AI, there will be a special U.S. piece of AI.
And, look, 70 million users in the United States, there's a lot at stake. So how realistic is a deal that will satisfy both Washington, its security concerns, and Beijing's ongoing control of its growing tech sector?
Sean, when I look at this closely, I actually think the deal piece of it is realistic. I don't know if it's a precedent for lots of other things in the bilateral relationship or trade. I think that's a harder call. I think that's kind of the easy part, if you ask me. I think the harder part for this longer term is about the product.
Right.
And whether the young audiences that use it, the 75 million or more, sense that something's different with it. And that I don't think we know yet, but that's actually where I've been focused in terms of what this thing looks like going forward if it becomes a U.S. app.
Scott, which businesses in the United States do you think stand to benefit the most if and hopefully when a deal on TikTok is reached?
I mean, look, I would hope other digital businesses, if they were to encounter this, that this is some form of a template, because I think it's a special case, TikTok, and I think most people, including the president, wants to keep it alive, actually, and doesn't want to take a platform away. So, I'm a digital business person, and so I can speak with some confidence to those verticals, if you will, and it would be my hope that this is a template for others. There are other competitors out there to TikTok. Triller's one, Meta, Snap, Instagram. There's a bunch of others that are circling in the wings. And I guess if looking down the road, if there are to be tensions like this again, this appears to be a positive way to sort of at least get through the deal making aspects of it. And so hopefully other digital businesses, advertisers, influencers, small businesses that either depend or work through TikTok, and lots of commerce businesses. It's a very impressive digital entity. Yeah, would benefit from this.
As you said, you're a digital person. So the United States has been saying, the government at least, that there are all kinds of risks that TikTok poses, the Chinese entity operating here in the United States. Do you believe a lot of those have already been knocked down to a large degree?
I don't know. I think the concerns around national security, I've always been a believer that they're legitimate. I don't think our Congress would have gone to this trouble if there wasn't something legitimate. I certainly acknowledge there's a rivalry. So I don't really know how to firmly say on that either way. But I think there's a realization that younger people use not only TikTok but other social networks and are willing through terms of service grants of privacy to give a lot of their privacy away to begin with. How different, how incrementally deeper this is, it's a tougher question to ask. So not really sure, honestly, to give you a concrete one on that.
Good stuff. Seth, always a pleasure. Thanks for your insight. We appreciate it.
Great to be here.
Okay, see you next time. Thank you.